The Denver Nuggets complete the gentleman's sweep over the Minnesota Timberwolves 4-1. Nikola Jokic didn't play well and had like a 27-point triple-double because it's what he does. Jamal Murray bounces back in a big way. We'll talk about the game, the series, what we've learned, and a little bit of a preview of the monster series up next for the Nuggets versus the Phoenix Suns. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. We appreciate you guys joining us on whatever platform you choose, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Repod, or Pocket Cast is the one I use, or on YouTube where you can join the show and join all sorts of folks hanging out in the chat section. 42 Ultra hanging out with us. Alec Gwynn making an appearance in the show. Michael Ritting, Dr. Van Nostrin is hanging out with us. Jack Burrett, 5555555-ish, always hanging out. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed at Gametime. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. His name's Adam Mares. He's director of content for DNVR. Check out the pre- and post-game shows before every Nuggets game over at DNVR. Check out the DNVR bar if you want to watch any Colorado sports game in existence. It's the best place for you to catch the games. Adam, I want to start right there. So the arena was a little weird last night with the weather. How was the DNVR bar last night for the closeout game 5?
Nervous energy. It was kind of funny, man. I mean, it was fun. Obviously, all the big moments you're celebrating, but it was one of those games where there were just fewer highs, I think, because most people spent most of the game nervous. That's what happens when you're down 15 in the first quarter.
Yeah. So there's a lot to kind of like start here as far as like this game, to do this game justice. I think my three big takeaways are Jamal Murray bounced back in an absolutely massive way. Second, MPJ once again coming up huge in the fourth quarter, which Nikola talked about post game. 3, honestly, to give like proper credit, is probably Bruce Brown delivering once again with another phenomenal performance. Yeah. 4 is that like what am I supposed to do when, like, we were talking about this post game in the media room? What are we supposed to do when we're like, God, Nikola was not good. 28 points, 17 rebounds, 12 assists, clutch buckets at the end, basically put the game away. 9-10 from the field, plus 3, 2 steals, 2 blocks. That's 4 stocks in total, 12 assists to 2 turnovers. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to, like, I don't know how to, like, I don't know what to do with Nikola a lot of the time. Like, it's been like that for a while. I felt like I got to a pretty solid
place. I think you do know, though.
How weird it could be. The only thing I'll say is I do more than than the individual performances. I listened to Locked On Celtics this morning because John Corrales is a longtime friend of mine, and he's a really smart writer and analyst. And he is livid with the Boston Celtics. Like, he is very, because they had told, like, Tatum had made this whole thing about how, like, we're going to learn from our mistakes. And he's like, and they lied to me and I fell for it. And the Nuggets, quite honestly, had a lot of opportunities in this game to be like, well, you know, one of those games, we just didn't have it. And instead they hung with it. They hung with it. They hung with it. They got the right level of motivation and they closed out the series. The Nuggets, Adam Mares, have won a series in less than 7 games.
I know, less than 6-2 now, new record 5. You do know what to make of Nikola Jokic's game. He was horrible shooting. I don't think he was necessarily horrible in any other facet, but he was horrible in shooting, and he shot more than he almost ever does. But found a way to win anyway. And this is the thing. This was not a good Jokic game, but it was a winning Jokic game. And that's, to me, this was, I know we'll get to some of the bigger takeaways, but this was a mature Nuggets team, a veteran Nuggets team in the playoffs, and this was like a veteran win. How do you play when things aren't going your way, when the shots aren't falling, when just the game and the rhythm isn't necessarily coming to you? And I don't think it was just a matter of shots not falling. I didn't think Denver had great energy early, but they found a way to win ugly down the stretch. And that's impressive because in the playoffs, this was one of my big takeaways last night on DNVR, but you know, the playoffs are just ugly. They just are. And you always think it's going to be like, well, the pretty teams, they were going to win and you're going to win by this way. And Porter threes and Jokic Sombor shuffles. It's like, no, sometimes you have to win through just like ugly offensive rebounds that give you an extra 14 seconds in the clutch. And that's what Denver did, and I thought that's what Jokic did. He was not good, but I thought he was very good in the final, 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, he was dominant. Like, he saw an opportunity and he absolutely seized it. He closed. That one to really seal it was absolutely insane. Like, it was incredible.
With the smirk. Can you guys see the smirk from the arena? He had 2 of them. The final 2 plays, it was actually maybe the highlight of the game for me, is that on those final 2 plays, because he made 2 big plays down the stretch, both times he had the most evil grin on his face afterwards. Just this total, like, it was hilarious to me. It was actually pretty hilarious for a guy who was struggling to kind of finish it like that. Joker-esque.
It's nice to see him having fun. Like, it's nice to see him having fun. Jamal was sensational, really start to finish. I thought the pace was much better. I thought his level of intensity was great. He talked about how, so this is very typical of Jamal. When he is praised, he brushes it off and does it and pretends like he doesn't see it. And anytime there's any criticism at all, he takes it intensely personally, and that's what makes him a great competitor and an NBA player. Like, he talked about last night how he was really tired of everybody talking about NAW giving him problems.
You want to know what's funny about that? Because I actually love that. And he came out tonight and hit some tough shots. Like, the funny thing is, and he would hate this, I don't think he actually solved Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I just think he overcame him. Yeah. Meaning he didn't okay, here's how I beat him. It's just like, I have to hit a crazy 3 at the shot clock buzzer in front of their bench, and he hit multiple of them. I was thinking about this, though. I haven't heard the Nickeil Alexander-Walker praise outside of this show and the DNVR show. So I was kind of sitting here, like, I don't know if that's a narrative that's outside of those things. So I found that very interesting.
I would say that there were some select tweets from an individual you and I both know very well about how much trouble NAW is giving him. And how
that's probably that, though, to be honest. Players aren't listening to podcasts. They'll see tweets, but they're not listening to podcasts.
That's probably it. I did think that in the fourth quarter, it's funny. Somebody mentioned in the chat that like the 2-man game almost cost us. I disagree. Jamal's baseline jumper on the side pick and roll was one of the best plays I thought they run in the fourth quarter. It was clean. And like Jamal did a really good job of basically accelerating at full speed to get clearance from NAW. Like, this is a lot of it is like, you can run pick and roll slow and steady if you're navigating space with defenders that try and occupy space. If you're playing against Denver's opponents that are trying to like really be up on you and play physical with you, you want to play a little bit faster, I think, to try and increase the gap that they have to close in terms of the time. And I thought that Jamal balanced that really well in the fourth quarter. I don't have enough good things to say about Michael Porter Jr. Like, I just don't, man, because couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, just could not do anything at all offensively. And in the fourth quarter, but you want to, through that entire stretch. So I took over Porter 7.5 rebounds and assists, and he was still rebounding. He wasn't making defensive mistakes. He stayed connected. We talk a lot about how the offensive process dictates the intensity level and connectedness on the defensive end. Porter has not been that way. Like, Porter had every reason in these games where he's not hitting early to disconnect and be frustrated and get in his head, and he has stayed with it. And then he drives for a dunk and finishes to get himself going.
That was a great attack, by the way. He set it up very nicely to get Gobert and then to beat him off the dribble.
Yeah. And like the decision to be like, I'm going to go get this dunk. And then that was it. He hits 2 of 3, like from 3-point range, 3 or 4 from the field. I do not have enough good things to say about MPJ and the way that he has been both a star in this series when it's been going for him, and a guy that has come up with clutch plays and play within his role. Just like a terrific series for Michael Porter Jr. start to finish.
The hard part about being a number 3 is that you have to be ready when your moment comes, even though the moment doesn't always arrive for you. Like, it's just, you don't know when it's going to be. It's not going to be as consistently as it is with Jamal and Nikola, who always have a chance to be in rhythm. His rhythm's going to wax and wane, and he was ready for it in this entire series in the biggest moments. And I'm glad that after the game, Nikola Jokic called him out about it. I'm glad he's getting credit for being clutch and being ready in clutch moments, because that's what role players are supposed to do. And that's what number 3s are supposed to do. They're supposed to be ready for those really high leverage moments when the ball finds him. And all series he has. And here's something when you just look at historical precedent for Michael Porter Jr., who has now played in 6 playoff series, he do I have that right? Yes, I do. He averaged the most minutes per game, 35.9, so 36 minutes, most minutes he's played in a playoff series to date. He averaged 16.4 points, which is the second most points he's averaged in a series, only behind Portland, where he was the number 2 option, obviously, a couple years ago. He averaged the most rebounds, 8.2, and it was no small thing. He's rebounded the entire series. And again, it's like you got to contribute something at all times. He contributed rebounding. So, and then he had the best 3-point shooting of his playoff career. He actually has shot the ball really well in the playoffs, but he shot 42.4%, which is a little bit higher than ever before. So to me, I'm just impressed with Michael Porter. He's more ready for this moment than ever before.
The Nuggets advance in less than 6 games. The Nuggets are now 4-1 under Michael Malone in the first round, which in modern discussions, like this is considered to be like, well, whatever, it's the first round. And I just like George Karl, this is like the thing, was like they could not get out of the first round. Like
Matt, nobody has had this type of first round success, meaning making it you can't take for granted that the Nuggets have been to the playoffs in these like little pockets, of golden eras or what have you, and they almost always lose in the first round half the time or more. The fact that the Nuggets to date, when they've been healthy, you just pencil in first round, they're going to be past that. It's a big deal.
Michael Malone now the most playoff wins in Nuggets franchise history for a coach with 25.
I think, can I tell you something? Everybody at the game last night was tweeting this out. Jokic became the winningest playoff player in Nuggets history too. It's funny to me that everybody caught the Malone part, but not the Jokic part. Jokic now has 25 playoff wins, which is more than Alex English at 24.
You're right. You're right. Nikola Jokic doesn't get enough credit. We should talk about him more.
No, it's not about getting enough credit. I'm saying this is a big they're equal milestones. Winning as playoff coach, winning as playoff player. Those are really big.
Yeah, but no, you don't understand. Nikola lost in 4 games to the Warriors, so he hasn't proven it in the playoffs.
Right.
Ridiculous concept.
That actually is hilarious to think. Jokic hasn't proven it in the playoffs, and you think he actually has proven it more than any Nugget in the history of the franchise.
It's ridiculous. On the other side, we'll talk about what we learned about the Nuggets in this series, and then later on, we will begin a very preliminary, very first run look at the Phoenix Suns and what is going to be a hell of a series on the floor, in those Twitter streets, in my mentions, on this show. It's going to be, it's not the big one, but it's going to feel like the big one. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. First, I need to tell you about Gametime. Lots of great concerts. I was talking with a friend the other day. I went and had lunch at Root Down. Shout out to Root Down. And we were talking about all the great concerts that are coming. And oftentimes my schedule is kind of dictated by whether or not, when it gets to be this spring and summer, do I have games? Do I have work? Is there free agency? Do I have time? I need to be able to get into concerts late, especially like if a situation opens up, like, oh, hey, the kids are going to kids night out at the rec center. I can actually go to a concert tonight. Those types of things. I need to be able to go quickly. And that's why Gametime is awesome, because you get flash deals and last minute tickets better than anywhere else. You don't have to plan for months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You get flash deals for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're also brought to you today by FanDuel Sportsbook. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You want to go to Coors Field and hang out in that awesome rooftop bar and just watch the sun go down and watch a baseball game. Maybe not watch the Rockies, but you want to make it like watching it a little bit more fun? Definitely a great way to do that.
I love how everybody that promotes the Rockies, it's always like, don't you want to go to that rooftop?
Don't you want to go to that rooftop? That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. My Paolo Banchero, preseason rookie of the year, which I took immediately after watching 30 seconds of him at Summer League, that came in. That's a great hit. Hit on Jaren Jackson, DPOY. MVP, I'm going to come out a little above even because of how much I bet on Nikola for 2 months. But still, don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Victory Wednesday after the Nuggets close out the first round series versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the headline that you made for the show, Adam, is what do we learn about the Nuggets and their round 1 win over the Wolves? I would love to get your thoughts on what you think we've learned about them.
I saw somebody criticizing Adam. The Nuggets have always won ugly in the Jokic era. There's some truth to that, but here's the difference. They didn't lose. I mean, they lost one game and they almost won that one. To me, there's a big difference between can you win ugly sometimes versus do you just know what to do in those moments? And there were 4 ugly games in this series, and Denver went 3-1 in those. Where you had to find a way to win down the stretch. So for me, I do think it's a little bit different, even from what we've seen from the Nuggets in years past. And then, the number one thing you have to take away from the series is that Jamal Murray is ready for the playoffs. We went through the whole regular season. He had some ups, he had some downs, but he never quite reached that bubble Murray peak outside of a couple games right before the All-Star break. But once the playoffs rolled around, he was ready, and he stepped up, and he had an incredible series. Despite, yes, being guarded, despite his protests, he was guarded by a player that gave him a handful.
I think we learned how much composure this team has.
Yeah.
In terms of, again, there were spots in this series where things didn't go right. Like games 1 and 2, they were dominant and they got them on their heels. The Wolves slowly got better, which is usually like whatever team is dominant in the early part of the series are not as dominant later because the other team has more motivation to make those adjustments and changes. And I thought that the Wolves tried a lot of that and did a really good job because, again, I think Chris Finch is a really good coach. By the way,
do you? I don't know that I thought Finch had a rough series.
I think you have to consider how many the biggest thing for coaches is you have to have it's not just missing good players. It's you have to have different combinations you can go to do different things. And he just didn't have enough in the bag.
Game 3, though, going away from putting Gobert on Jokic, I thought was just such a weird decision. And that late in the series, and it might have cost them a chance. Nonetheless, whatever. Some small things here or there.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that Ant had more success as it goes on. I will say this. I am more concerned about the Nuggets defense than I was at the start of the series. I'm more concerned about it. I'm specifically concerned about Nikola. And this is going to be this is going to be the series, and we'll talk about that in the next one, but it's going to be a huge part of it. I think I've learned a lot about MPJ. Bruce Brown had an awesome November, and then there was 4 months, honestly, of all of us kind of being this is we thought Bruce was going to be the guy, the real impact guy, and hasn't been great. And he's been the last month, Bruce Brown has been awesome. He was great almost every game in the series. I loved his playmaking. He had some turnovers last night that were bad, but overall, I've loved his playmaking. I've loved his finishing, his level of attack, his defense, small plays, all of it. KCP is exactly what we thought he would be. This is a rough series for Aaron Gordon, and I'm honestly I'm relieved for Aaron that he gets to get out of this series.
But at the same time, he played well defensively. Towns did not have a good series. That was his primary assignment.
That's true. But
you're right. Offensively, it was tough. I mean, yeah, he had a tough job on offense.
Yeah. And had to foul a lot, just had to foul a lot. That's, I don't even think it was bad fouls. It's just this is going to happen when you're this, undersized. I'm thankful honestly for his body that he's out of the series. Cause that had to have been a pretty, Aaron was very much hoping that the Clippers extended the series only because he wanted the extra time off, I think, last night. He's pretty banged up after that series. And 555-ish makes this comment. Somebody else noted it too. AG made free throws.
Yep.
Huge. Really good
90%
job there.
Of the series? I think he might have been 90%.
The Nuggets formula for the regular season translated. The Nuggets identity translated. They were who they told us they were. Those to me are the big takeaways in the first round win over the Wolves. And I want to ask you this: do you feel like Malone panicked less than you expected in the series?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they were never in position to panic. Is maybe a little bit part of it, but I thought Malone had a good series. I mean, if you ask me, like the standouts: Bruce Brown, Jamal Murray, Michael Malone, Michael Porter in the fourth quarters. Like those would be my standouts.
Yeah. Do you feel a little bit better about Jamal after the Game 5 performance?
I mean, I felt good about Jamal after game 1, but I did think game 5 was a nice, like he hit some really, he went back into that mode where he hit heroic shots in key moments. The thing I'll say is I don't think he got past Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like Nickeil Alexander-Walker played the same defense in this game that he has been playing. Jamal Murray hit really tough shots. And I don't know that that's necessarily the formula long term. I think he's going to need his quickness back. I think this is a series where he's likely going to be quicker in game 1 of the Sun series than he was in game 1 of the Wolves series, just in better shape. Just this level of basketball pushes you to be a little bit better. And then I think the matchup does actually get easier. I mean, we'll talk about that in the next segment, I know, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I knew his game. I knew he was a defender, but I never really watched him. He was an incredible defender in this series, like an extremely high-level defender.
And
hard
made shots.
Yeah, and man, that part is kind of like I don't know if I ever will trust him as a shot maker, but he did make shots in this round. He was impossible to screen. I mean, so much of Murray's game is the Jokic Murray pick and roll, and it was almost ineffective just because you couldn't screen him. He's so skinny. He's so good at getting through screens that he just refused to get screened. But yet Murray overcame it and still played well enough to get this series over in 5. So I have to be impressed with him.
Jamal said he was he really loved the way that he said this. That was the exact quote. He loved the way that NAW shot the ball in that game and told him so after the game because they're going to be Canadian teammates. So, yeah.
That's right. They are Canadian teammates, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, we're going to need that this summer for Team Canada. I want to ask you this, and this is like a small thing. Jeff's ceiling is very low. It's just very low. I thought relative to my expectations for Jeff, that Jeff was good in this series. I thought Jeff gave really good minutes. Wow. So no, you don't agree?
I don't. If we look at it here, 22.6 minutes per game, 4 points, 1.4 rebounds in the entire series. What is that?
That one last night counts for like 6, though. That was an incredible.
It was his only rebound in 20 minutes. He played good defense, and like that was his primary job. They won their minutes by a lot. I mean, you're talking about 2 teams that were very depleted. But if you ask me if I have confidence in Jeff Green going forward, the answer is just no. Like you need to get some production in other ways, in my opinion, primarily from rebounding. And in this one against a very depleted Timberwolves team, it worked out. But that if you talked about one guy that I'm not sure about going forward, he would be the guy.
Okay, I thought he was really good. We can disagree.
He shot 34% from the field, 20% from 3, and grabbed 7 rebounds.
I thought he was really good defensively. I thought he made hustle
plays. But he was good defensively.
That's what he's there for.
Yeah, I know, but that was also the easiest defense to guard, like their second unit. They were so depleted that they threw – Matt, you have to admit, this is true. They threw out bench lineups that had Karl Anthony Towns, Kyle Anderson, Noel, Austin Rivers. Like they threw out lineups that probably had never played together and were certainly not their go-to, like, hey, this is a coherent lineup. This is the guys we have available to us.
We're good. On the other side, we'll start talking about the Sun series. We'll give our first thoughts on that matchup, what it's going to look like. It's going to be a lot of content on this over the next couple of days, but I want to get our first kind of initial thoughts on the Sun series, which the Denver Nuggets will face the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference semifinals. We'll talk about that on the other side. I want to let you know that PrizePicks Daily Fantasy Made Easy is offering a new $1 million daily Superflex promotion through the NBA Finals. Every day of the playoffs, all the way through the finals, one PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. One entry placed after 8 a.m. Eastern will be randomly selected each day. Whoever placed that entry will be given a 6-pick flex with the following payouts. If you get all 6 correct, $1 million. 5 correct, $80,000. 4 correct, $16,000. Full details can be found at prizepicks.com/million. You must opt in at this link to be eligible for the $1 million entry. Once you opt in, all you have to do is play the game like normal, and you could be the lucky winner. Check it out at prizepicks.com. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Final segment here with Adam Mares on a Wednesday. I want to implore you to have more enthusiasm. You have really been like, yeah, but like this Wolves team isn't good. Like you're just like I think the Wolves team really battled. I thought I came away. I continue to be really impressed with like Minnesota's internal culture. Like, yes, they got a lot to figure out in terms of making this stuff work, and that's what next year is going to be about, I think.
So
but,
you think this Wolves team is pretty good?
Yeah, I think they're pretty good. I think they are better. I think that the Nuggets 5-game win is better than it will probably be given credit for because of the perception of who Minnesota is.
I mean, I agree that I don't think Minnesota's like some pushover team. It would, the East Coast and the Eastern Conference, you had a couple teams that I think were probably pushover teams, but they weren't a pushover team. And the fact that they had the Twin Towers, I think they were a tougher matchup for Denver than they would be for most teams. But nonetheless, I still don't think they were good. And I think that the bench in particular, like their starting lineup gave Denver all they can handle. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker finished as a positive in this series, which is kind of crazy for for a guy that played all 38 minutes a game and lost in 5 to be a positive is pretty wild. But the bench, specifically the bench part of that is the one that I think is so hard to quantify because there were just so many lineups they had to throw out there that were just try to survive for 4-minute lineups.
Yeah. Jamal actually had the worst net rating on court of any Nugget in the series at plus 2.8. Nikola was second at plus 3.7. And the bench dominated, which after being a weakness all year, the bench really kind of dominated. I don't know who to give.
I think that has more to do with their bench was
bad.
I know.
I know.
That's the thing.
Yeah. You're just like, yeah, Denver's bench is not great, but the Wolves bench was terrible for a number of reasons.
And I'll say this, Phoenix's bench isn't very good either.
It's true. Absolutely. Okay. I'll be honest with you. I'm really excited for the basketball part of Suns Nuggets. It's a fascinating matchup. It's a great clash of styles. There's history here between the two teams. You have guys playing at absolutely ridiculous levels. It should be awesome basketball. I am dreading all of the intensity because then like the intensity breeds toxicity online and it breeds like conflict upon multiple levels. And we see this with like other series, right? Like when things are close, you see more of these interactions that cause like Kings Warriors, I think is a great example of this. Where like, the Draymond incident where it's like, this is a really great basketball series, but because everything is so tight, you have these incidents. And like, I bet we get something like that in Suns Nuggets. Cause this is a monster series for both teams. This is like proof of concept for both teams. What do you think?
Even more so for Denver, to be honest. There is a pressure on Phoenix, but Phoenix to me is a roster that got thrown together. Like they haven't built around that core, and they're going to do that in the offseason a lot more. So I think that you could make the case of like, hey, they got time, but at the same point, Chris Paul doesn't have time. This is probably his best shot at it, and Kevin Durant is not that young, so he's got to get it done. This is going to be an intense series. I really do. It might be the series of the second round. Celtics, should they advance, Celtics 76ers will be up there, and then Lakers Warriors will be the one that draws all the eyeballs. But I think this one is going to be such an intense, high pressure, lots of hatred for each other series. And to be honest with you, I think it's a series where all the stars have favorable matchups. You don't say that too often, but I think this is a good matchup for Murray, Jokic, KD, Booker, and Aaron Gordon. So it's going to be an interesting one.
So like my first kind of thought on the series is this, can Nikola dominate Ayton to the point where the Suns are searching for another option? Like if he is able to either through fouls or through excellence, force Monty Williams to be like, we got to do something else.
Yeah.
Then that causes an entire shift and breakdown of the Suns' identity, and they're going to be trying to ad-lib a lot of stuff. On the other side is, will Booker and KD choose to attack the rim, or will they take the mid-range jumper? They are lethally efficient in the mid-range. They are the best team in the league at it, It is not close. It is not comparable. KD's numbers and Booker's numbers are absolutely sensational. However, you can shoot phenomenally from mid-range, and it is still going to be less efficient than a layup. And a lot of this is if they challenge Jokic over and over and over again, the way that Ant did with a much worse team. And honestly, like Ant was great in this series. He's not where Booker and KD are.
Right.
That's going to dictate, I think, a lot of it. Like this, I will tell you, Adam, this is a Nikola Jokic series. Like,
yeah, it has to
everything.
Be.
Like this is everything is on Nikola.
It has to be. So, and I see some people saying Ayton gives Jokic more problems than just about anyone. I don't think this is true. I think it was true. I don't think it's true anymore. I think it was true 2 years ago, for a variety of reasons. Obviously, Denver not having a lot, but also, they had Jay Crowder. They had Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and just all this length they could throw out there that it really is. It's rarely it's just one guy. It's can you do a lot of this, pressure? And then secondly, they put Jokic in every pick and roll, which they're going to do again. They're going to try to wear Jokic out. And so stamina is going to be a huge part of this series. I do think Denver catches a break by getting 3 days off heading into Saturday. They play 2 games at home. Then they get 3 days off before going to Phoenix. So I think this is a series where both teams can probably be more rested than usual, just by nature of they're going to be the first series to start the second round. But I think that Jokic actually has figured Ayton out. I think that Jokic feels as though he's figured Ayton out, and this is a series where he's going to have to go out and prove it and completely dominate him. Because that's the thing. I don't think either team can guard each other here. No. And your point about the efficiency is so important. Phoenix draws a lot of fouls. They drew more fouls than anybody in the first round, and that's going to be a major storyline. Like if they get to the line, they get a set defense. You draw, all those things that can really change the complexion of the game. But Denver should win the 3-point battle and the paint battle, and that's the biggest parts of this efficiency. So I don't think either team stops each other, and Denver, I think, needs to just outscore them in the ways that matter.
I think I'm going to be really curious to see what they do with the 1-4 switches for Denver. What I mean by that is what they're going to do is they're going to get the ideal matchup on either KD or Booker, and then they're going to run that versus Jokic. And I'm going to be curious to see whether or not they choose MPJ or Jamal. And there may honestly be this idea. There's 2 kind of concepts here. MPJ may not be able to cover the ground as quickly as Jamal. Jamal's defense has been, I thought, like basically in their wins in the series, I thought it was pretty good. Like there was
I should say when I went back and watched the last game after our show. Murray, to me, his defense was atrocious in Game 4. When I went back, I talked about Jokic's defense. You said I blamed Jokic defensively, and Murray offensively. Yeah, I think Murray I would blame on both sides the most. Like there was obviously not one person, but his defense to me stood out so bad on the rewatch.
I thought it was much better last night. I think then this is the thing is when he's better rested and when he's not feeling worn down, he's going to be much better. And I think most of that, like a lot of that's the injury, honestly. So that's going to be the question is, do the Suns just put Murray constantly in pick and rolls, not necessarily because of the offensive advantage, but just to wear him out, like just to exhaust him.
But this is the thing, man. It's going to be both ways. Like,
yep.
The Suns' best chance of guarding Denver is going to be putting like a Kogi and Torrey Craig on the court. But that kills their offense. It completely changes their offense. And the same for Denver. I mean, Booker or Chris Paul are going to have to be chasing Murray around and trying to guard him. Neither one can guard Jamal Murray in the pick and roll with Jokic. Neither one of them. But the same is true on the other end. Like Denver's not going to be able to guard Chris Paul in pick and roll in this series. So to me, I'm so curious to see how this goes because I think both teams have the ability to dominate the others in the ways that they want.
If I give you 2 choices between bringing extra help for doubles and hard shows against the wings coming on pick and rolls and leaving Torrey Craig open or staying home and basically saying we'll live with Booker 60 when KD 45, which of those options do you think is better for Denver defensively? I agree. Well, I want to say at its core, I agree with you that like Denver can win this series on offense. This is a series where they can win on offense, but in all that is you're going to have to what you can't do is you can't give Booker 50 and 9. You can't give Booker 50 and 10. That's what you can't do.
Yeah, I think the key, you have to mix it up. I don't think there's going to be a single answer to this question, but I do think that the general principle is to live with those mid-range pick and roll pull-ups until the fourth quarter, and then dare Okogie and Torrey Craig to make threes in the clutch. So I think you probably give them a one look for most of the game and then change it up late in games. I know it's not 1-to-1. You're going to mix it up throughout the game. But generally speaking, I think later in games, especially if it's close, you got to get the ball out of the hands and make the others make shots.
So you still want to use, and I understand why, you still want to dare Torrey Craig a little bit to be what he's been?
I just don't think a team is – if you told me, like, you have to dare Aaron Gordon to make fourth quarter threes, to me, I'm like, yeah, that's the worst option for Denver.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same – for Denver, they have KCP and they have Michael Porter, so they have better after you get through that first guy. But, yes, I think if you ask me, is KD going to hit a mid-range pull-up in the clutch? Absolutely, he's going to hit those. Is Torrey Craig going to hit an open wing three in the clutch? I don't know. Hope not.
It's kind of interesting. There's a conversation here about CB and Jeff Green. I would say that, honestly, in this series, Jeff is going to spend more time guarding KD, and Christian Brown will probably spend more time guarding Booker.
It's interesting that you say that, because I don't know what the right matchup – I don't know that Denver has a matchup for KD. I think
Who does?
Nobody does. You're right. I mean, well, the Clippers.
Yeah.
I actually think –
Not really.
Well, they didn't actually have him, but –
yeah.
But Kawhi Leonard, I mean, there's very, very few guys. But I do think that the guys that guard Kevin Durant the best are the guys that attack him defensively rather than shadow him. And so I'm just curious. I don't think this is like anything I say here, you're going to throw back in my face in a week. Like, you said Bruce Brown could guard KD. No, I'm not saying that. But I do think there's something to just attack his dribble. Just attack him. Get into his body. And he's going to elevate and shoot over him, of course. But I think there's something to – does Aaron Gordon's length bother KD? No, because KD is longer than Aaron Gordon, and his jumper is great. So just try to get into him and force turnovers.
I like your analysis, and you're very smart. Like, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a really smart idea, honestly, is to attack him on the other end to wear him out. Like, you're absolutely right on that. I will not be like you said.
But I even mean defensively. Like, don't let, KD likes to do one dribble pull up. Bruce Brown's not going to block the pull up or contest it, but can he disrupt the one dribble part?
Do you want to know the in my opinion, and this remains true to this day, he has never gotten better at it. The biggest thing that you can do with KD is push him out of his spot.
Right. Yeah,
he's never been able to hold it. Yeah. That's where I honestly like the matchup with Jeff, is if Jeff's like, yeah, no, he's going to shoot over me, but I'm going to shove him out two more feet. Like, just don't let him get comfortable. That's really the thing, is like, just don't let him get comfortable. As long as you're making it hard on him, that's really all you can do. You can't do you got to live with it. Yeah. This is Kevin Durant.
One thing that gives me hope, this series is funny in how it mirrors both mirror them. I'm talking about how offensively all the stars should feel good about their matchup. Defensively, Jokic is going to have to work really hard, but I think the Suns really need KD on defense too, because they need rim protection. They need that help side rim protection. So KD should go off offensively, but I do think he's going to have to work hard and maybe be a little fatigued as the games go on, because they just need him to block shots and be a help side guy. They need him to be Gobert in this series.
The Suns lucked out with the series schedule, having the 4-day differential between game 2 and game 3. That was a huge break, I think, for the Suns.
Denver kind of, I would say yes if I felt like Denver was in better shape.
You feel like the Nuggets are tired too?
I think the Nuggets also need it. The Suns probably need it more, just because Chris Paul wearing down, that's what cost him last year. And so he, of all people, I think benefits the most from rest. But Denver, sadly, to me, probably needs it as well.
If Jokic comes out, and if you talked about this earlier about how Jokic figures guys out, and I agree with you. What I think is funny is, I don't think, lots of guys are like, and I took that personal, so I worked and figured out how. And I don't think that's it at all. I think Jokic is very much like, oh, that was tough. I should do better at that. I should figure out how to do that. Oh, okay, I'll just do this. I
think it's just pattern recognition.
Yeah.
He just plays long enough and he's like, oh, okay, that's what I do.
Yep. Which again, if you want evidence of that, it's the fourth quarter last night where Rudy again, I have a lot of pity for the Wolves. I don't mean sympathy is a better word. Gobert played so well in this series and tried so hard, and there's nothing he can do.
Dude, I'm telling you, Gobert was very impressive in this series.
Yeah.
Gobert is the most cursed athlete. He's a good player. He's a really good player. He's a really good defender, an effective defender. Jokic, most of your best offensive players outplay your best defensive players. That's just how it works. Gobert's gone up against Jokic twice in the playoffs.
When will you be ready for a Nuggets prediction on the series?
Friday. I mean, I haven't done any like, this is all like preliminary thoughts. So I got to dig into some of the tape. I've got to watch their series and really see what they've been doing. Let me ask you this question though before you get to a prediction, because
I'm not going to do one today.
But a lot of people are talking about Peyton Watson as a possible option. I'm just curious what the rotation looks like. And Denver didn't have to change anything in the series. They were up from the start. They were up 2-0. They're up 3-0. You never had to make a big adjustment. You made little adjustments on what you're doing, but they never had to say, let's try this person out. This is going to be about, can we find anybody that can guard these guys even a little bit? And I'm just curious if Denver tries Zeke, if they try Peyton Watson. Really Zeke and Peyton. I don't know if there's somebody else he would try in this series, but
I mean, it's really like, honestly, a lot of this is if Booker, I can't believe I'm saying this. I have so much respect for Kevin Durant. I always have since the day one for his game. If I'm a Nuggets fan, I'm more worried about Booker. Really? I think Booker is more. Here's the thing. I think Booker is more impactful right now for the Suns than KD.
Crazy.
That's how good he is. That's how good he's been playing.
I just think Denver has people more equipped to guard Booker than they do to guard. They don't have anybody that can guard KD. I mean, nobody does, again, but Denver lacks wings.
Your candidates for, I can't believe this guy's killing the Nuggets. Landry Shamet, I'm going to put number 1 on that list because I have never thought Landry Shamet was good. And
took him on Christmas.
And yeah. And so he's one. I'm curious to see if Damian Lee plays more in the series. That's another one that I'm going to be curious.
I actually had thought about this. I don't know. Teams default to making sure they have defense on the court. I do wonder if both teams at some point go, we can't guard these guys. Let's go to offense. Because Damian Lee in the Torrey Craig spot is actually pretty scary to me. Denver should score on them, but will Denver really score that much more than they would against Torrey Craig? As opposed to if you get to run spread pick and roll with nothing but lights out 3-point shooters around, like Denver has no chance.
You are aware that there's like a decent, like, because of how much, like your tone is very much like you don't believe in Torrey's shot.
Well, I mean, Torrey's
never been a Torrey guy, and that's okay. He's not great.
Well, Torrey's shooting like 90% from 3, so
yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be a surprise if he hits him. But I'm just saying, like, do I buy? You have to pick your poison at this stage of the playoffs, and I will pick the Torrey Craig poison. I just don't think it's that consistent.
Okay. We'll be back tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to do a crossover episode with Locked On Suns. The Nuggets practice on Friday, and we'll do practice and then a show. And then we'll do a post-game show on Saturday night after the Nuggets game, assuming that the Celtics close out the Hawks. We'll do all that. We'll get you caught up on the other Western Conference series as the week goes on. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.